I couldn't believe it. There I was, at Apple, leading an engineering meeting, but the team member from the Apple TV team directed all the technical questions to my male colleague. I took a deep internal sigh and thought, how many times has this happened before? I brushed it aside because sadly, I had learned to accept that this is just the way it is in tech. But later that day, something unexpected happened. I got the following message. Jossie, I want to sincerely apologize for my assumptions during today's meeting. That was terrible gender bias on my part. I'm truly sorry, and I'm committed to making sure it doesn't happen again. Wow, I was stunned. That apology changed something for me. It showed me that small actions can have a big impact. But how often do we actually receive acknowledgments like this? Almost never. And for women in tech, microaggressions like these can be small, but their impact is enormous. Each one becomes another drop in our inequity bucket. Being labeled feisty for disagreeing with a team member, that's a drop. Not being invited to casual networking because it's just sports talk, another drop. Asked to take notes simply because you're the only woman in the room, yet another drop. And eventually, those drops build up and they overflow, leading to over 50% of women leaving tech by the age of 35. But it doesn't have to be this way. And today, I am here to change that narrative. I'm Jossie Haines, and after 25 years leading software engineering teams, I stepped away from the full-time corporate world to dedicate my career to one powerful mission, empowering women to thrive in tech. So I am here to help you reclaim your voice, fully own your worth, and step confidently into your power so that you can create the career and life that you truly desire. And today we're going to focus on 3 powerful strategies to reclaim your power and drive your career forward, no matter what's going on around you. First, we're going to talk about amplifying your voice and becoming known as a solutions-oriented leader. Next, we'll talk about navigating bias strategically by building allies and support systems that open doors. And third, I'm going to lovingly call you out on breaking free from that good girl trap so that you can confidently own your worth. And the reality is, many of the barriers we face in tech are systemic, and it is not on us solely to fix them. But there is still so much within our control. And in a climate of layoffs, overwhelm, political strife, and constant doom scrolling, reclaiming your narrative matters now more than ever. And so my goal is for you to leave today empowered, ready to run towards the career you truly want instead of feeling pushed out. And how often have you experienced this? You speak up, but your voice gets overlooked, interrupted, or your ideas are credited to somebody else. For women in tech, it's an everyday reality. And yet your voice is your most powerful tool, not only for your own career, but for shaping tech that serves everyone. But the challenge is, as women, when we speak assertively, we're often penalized with labels like difficult or less likable. So let's explore exactly how you can amplify your voice effectively without falling into that likability trap. And so let's talk about 3 powerful moves for having your voice be heard. First, claim your space. If you're interrupted, calmly and confidently say, I'd like to finish my thought. When I was repeatedly interrupted at American Express, using phrases like, Thanks for sharing that. I'd love to complete my point. Significantly reduced interruptions over time. Next is own your ideas. When your ideas get dismissed or appropriated, it can be unconscious bias at play. So first, you can address it immediately. You can say something like, hey, thank you for echoing my idea, so-and-so. Let's dive deeper into that. If it's something that happens with the same person again and again, you can follow up privately. I noticed that you restated the idea I shared earlier without acknowledging it, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but it's important for everyone's contributions to be recognized. And then enlist allies. Encourage colleagues to amplify your voice by reinforcing your points in meetings. Building on what Jossie said, ... And then finally, hold your ground with presence. Sit confidently at the table, not on the sidelines. Use strong, decisive language. Swap hesitant phrases like, I might be wrong, for direct statements like, I recommend, or my analysis shows. And pay attention to your body language. Sit tall, lean in, maintain eye contact, and speak clearly. Your voice matters, so own it. And amplifying your voice ensures you're heard. But being heard isn't enough. It's also crucial how you're heard. Early in my career, I frequently raised concerns thinking I was being proactive. And yet, the more I spoke up about potential issues without solutions, the more I was perceived as the problem person, not the leader I wanted to become. So to change the narrative, I always paired problems with solutions. I clearly stated the issue and then suggested a way forward. I also tried reframing problems as strategic questions. Instead of saying, hey, this won't work, I asked something like, how might we improve this for our users? This signals collaboration and positioned me as solution-oriented. And that shift changed everything and accelerated my growth into senior leadership. Now, even when your voice is strong and your solutions focused, there's another layer of complexity that I already touched on. The reality is we are going to encounter biases, like that tricky balance between being assertive and likable or confidently advocating without being labeled as aggressive. So let's explore how to navigate these challenges strategically and build powerful support systems that open doors for you, not close them. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but have you ever felt trapped between being liked and being respected? Women face what's known as that likability penalty. When we are assertive, we're often labeled as aggressive or difficult. Women get 2.5 times more feedback about aggressive communication than men. But if we soften our approach, we can be liked, but then are seen as less competent or less leadership ready. And this bias can impact every aspect of our work, negotiations, meetings, performance reviews, and that can leave us stuck feeling like we're in a constant balancing act that we can never win. So how do we navigate that? Here are 3 strategies to try. First, try flipping the script. Framework your negotiation points as team focus, like we. This will help the group. You're still assertive, but perceived as collaborative and supportive, which can help sidestep that likability penalty. Then use the yes and technique. Instead of saying no and being called difficult, agree and add your conditions clearly. Yes, I'd love to take the lead on that project, and to be able to succeed on that, I'll need these dedicated resources. And if you're called out for your assertiveness, reframe it positively. When I was being called feisty for standing up for my team, I responded and said, hey, I'd prefer passionate or confident. That would keep the conversation constructive. Remember, your ultimate goal is not likability. It's authenticity paired with influence. It's about strategically positioning your strengths without losing yourself. And I keep mentioning likability bias, but obviously that is not the only challenge we face. So here are 5 powerful strategies for navigating any biases or microaggressions that comes up, ensuring that you do what feels safe and appropriate for you in the situation. If you're comfortable, start by addressing it directly. Hey, I've noticed I'm frequently asked to take notes. Could we rotate this amongst the team? 2, try seeking clarification to prompt reflection. For example, can you help me understand why you think this approach won't work? 3, try educating with empathy. When you approach bias by educating rather than accusing, this can help you. You can share insights, studies, or personal stories that illustrate how biases impact you and others, and it can move the needle much more. Leverage allies. Allies will help you amplify your voice and help create accountability, so you're not feeling alone when you're advocating for yourself. And finally, if there's persistent issues, escalate those. Involve HR or leadership. Organizations need to recognize that these issues are happening so they can address them meaningfully. And it is not your responsibility alone to fix systemic biases. I called that out earlier. There's a lot of systemic things that it is not a responsibility to change. But every small action you take helps create a better environment for you and for other women in tech. And you don't have to navigate these challenges alone. Building meaningful relationships with mentors, peers, sponsors, and allies can give you your guidance, support, and opportunities that can transform your career. Yet too often, we fall into the trap of being too busy or believing we must do everything ourselves or be that servant leader. But here's the truth. Investing even a little time consistently in cultivating your support system is one of the most powerful things that you can do, not just for your career, but for yourself. And often, our male counterparts are spending time and money in investing in their support and growth. So we should do that as well. So early in my career, I thought success came from hard work alone. And I rarely prioritized networking, thinking I was too busy for relationships. And when I left Apple in 2018, reality hit me pretty hard. I felt isolated, and my lack of meaningful connections had cost me more than I realized. And so I made a shift then, and focusing on building genuine relationships, and the results were profound. Networking didn't just accelerate my career, it transformed it and allowed me to build a thriving business quickly. And I know that networking can feel draining, especially if you're an introvert. And genuine networking, though, isn't about that forced small talk. It is about intentional relationship building, and it is a skill that you can learn. Start by asking little questions, right? And I encourage my clients to dedicate just 30 minutes a week to building those meaningful connections. Maybe you're taking the time to reach out to somebody new, reconnect with an old colleague, coming up with your networking strategy, or sharing help, insights, or resources with somebody you want to connect with. The strongest career opportunities are often going to come from your extended network. Friends of friends, past colleagues, or even acquaintances who hear about your unique strengths and connect you with the opportunities. So don't wait until you need a network to build one. Your future thriving self will thank you. And networking helps build the foundation for your support system. But to really amplify your career growth, you also need strong champions who advocate for you. And this is where allies and sponsors come into play. Allies amplify your voice day to day, ensuring your contributions are recognized and valued. They actively support your visibility and credibility. Sponsors, on the other hand, they propel your career forward behind closed doors. They champion you for high visibility projects and advocate directly for your advancement. So identify potential sponsors by noticing who respects your work and holds influence. Then intentionally nurture those relationships. Communicate your goals and strengths and make it easy for them to advocate for you. How can you help them? Investing in allies and sponsors is one of the most strategic moves you can make for your career advancement. So don't leave that to chance. And while allies and sponsors support your professional advancement, thriving isn't only about career success. Your personal support system matters just as much. Think about the people who sustain and energize you personally, your partner, family, friends, and intentionally invest in the relationships that lift you up. And also consider support that you can hire to free up your mental and emotional bandwidth. Maybe it's housekeeping, childcare, meal prep, or other services. And investing in your support is not a luxury. It is essential. It enables you to show up powerfully, sustainably, and authentically in your career and life. And if you're here listening to this, you're probably a high achiever. Someone who checks every box and always goes the extra mile, gets those straight A's. And yet, despite your hard work, you might often feel like it is still never enough. And why does that happen? Because many of us were taught early on that success comes from pleasing everyone, avoiding conflict, and always working harder. But here is the truth I want to lovingly call you out on. That good girl mindset is keeping you stuck playing small, exhausting yourself, and losing sight of your dreams. I call myself a recovering good girl people pleaser because it is a trap I've actively chosen to break free from every day. And if this resonates, you're not alone. So let's uncover what else might be holding you back. That good girl mindset often feeds directly into imposter syndrome. That nagging feeling that we're not quite good enough and at any moment we're going to be found out. One of my coaching clients nearly switched to product management because she feared she wasn't technical enough to lead in engineering. And personally, imposter syndrome was a big factor of why I left Apple. Despite consistent praise that I was a great manager, I kept doubting my leadership abilities. And here's the truth. Imposter syndrome isn't about your competence. It's about the story you're telling yourself. And it is a story that you have the power to rewrite. And ultimately, here's the shift that matters the most. You don't need to prove your worth. You need to own it and accept it. Our self-confidence depends on external validation and can fluctuate based on the achievements we have. But self-worth, that is deeper. That's your inherent value that is constant, regardless of successes or setbacks. You are worthy simply because you exist, even if you never accomplish another thing. Let me repeat that. You are worthy simply because you exist, even if you never accomplish another thing. Let that truly sink in. I know it took me a lot of time to fully accept that. When you genuinely embrace your inherent worth, imposter syndrome loses its power. You free yourself from perfectionism and the endless cycle of external validation. And that is when you become unstoppable. And it is nice for me to sit here and talk about owning your self-worth and how powerful it is, but how do you do that? How do you make that shift practically? And it comes with time of doing small, consistent steps. And here are strategic tools that I've personally used and that my coaching clients have used to consistently reinforce that self-worth. The first is a weekly success journal. Every week, document your achievements, both big and small, and revisit these regularly to quiet that imposter feeling and remind yourself of ongoing impact. And a bonus is that is a great tool for performance review time. You'll already have the log already for you. Second is celebrate small wins. Every step forward counts, especially incremental progress towards a big goal. Celebrate each small milestone, reinforcing your worth along the journey, not the destination. Daily affirmations. Choose affirmations that directly address where you're feeling stuck or held back. For example, I speak confident and clearly in meetings. My expertise is valuable in needing. Tailoring the affirmations specifically helps rewire those limiting beliefs into empowering truths. And again, don't do this alone. Connect with other women in tech. Regularly engage with others who share your experiences. This community can help you provide validation, perspective, and reassurance so that you are never alone. And experiment with these tools and find what resonates most deeply for you. There's no one-size-fits-all way to owning your worth. And even when you're owning your worth and using the right tools, especially in the current day and time, overwhelm can still creep in, especially when you might be trying to do it all yourself. So, on top of getting that support that I already talked about, here's some things to do to move from surviving to truly thriving. 1, stop the scroll. Limit social media and news consumption to protect your mental space and reduce stress. There's a lot in there that you cannot control, so let it go. 2, clarify your priorities. What are your top 3 daily tasks for your work and your personal life? And nothing else makes the list until these priorities are handled. Remember, as a leader, our job is not just to be checking things off of a to-do list. It is to show up strategically. And by focusing on those top 3 priorities, that way you're being strategic, not just checking off a to-do list. Prioritize real self-care. And this goes beyond things like spa days and massages, even though those can be useful too. This is about focusing intentionally on the essentials: sleep, nutrition, movement, and rest. And also giving yourself time to process your emotions instead of avoiding and running away from them. Finally, do a weekly brain dump. It is about clearing your mind out of everything that's in there. Tasks, to-do lists, fears, stressors, frustrations. And this is not about using this to create a to-do list, but it is a way to mentally declutter and release that mental load and stress. And you can make time for these and for what you truly value by setting boundaries without guilt. Boundaries is my word of the year because honestly, I still struggle with saying no. But now I realize that saying no to what drains me is saying yes to what truly aligns with my values. So clearly define your limits. Offer alternatives when possible. Have phrases for how you say no. And remember, you are not responsible for others' reactions to you saying no. Because putting your well-being first is not selfish, it is essential leadership. And I've covered a lot today, from amplifying your voice, navigating biases strategically, to breaking free from the good girl trap and truly owning your worth. And remember, while still systemic change in tech is still needed and you are not responsible for that, you also do not need anyone else's permission to thrive right now. External chaos does not define your success, you do. And when you stop over-proving, over-giving, and over-apologizing, you step into your true leadership power. So you are already worthy. Own it, claim your space, and create the career and life you genuinely desire. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you'd like to stay connected, find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're ready to dive deeper and are looking for support on how to truly thrive as a woman leader in tech, don't hesitate to reach out.